Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the British Columbia Museums Association webinar. My name is Lorenda Calvert, and I will be your host for today. Today's webinar topic is Virtual Exhibits, Engagement, and Accessibility. This webinar will be presented by Sandra Borger and Meena Bhagat. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that the BCMA offices are located on the traditional lands of the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations. We are grateful for the opportunity to live and learn here in mutual respect and appreciation. We also recognize the traditional lands of the many nations across British Columbia where the work of the projects described in this webinar have been carried out. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank our webinar sponsor today, Lucidia. Lucidia is a software solutions company based in Richmond, BC. They develop collections management software systems that are suitable for libraries, archives, and museums, both large and small. Lucidia's motto is redefine how knowledge is shared, which is quite fitting for a webinar sponsor. We thank Lucidia for supporting BCMA as we seek to share knowledge through our webinar series. As I mentioned, I am Lorenda Calvert, your host for today. I'm also BCMA's programs coordinator. I have been with the organization for just over a month now, so please bear with me if we have any technical challenges or learning new things about Zoom. If you are experiencing technical difficulties, please do email our office. Vanessa, our operations manager, is standing by to assist. So a bit of housekeeping before we begin. If you are reading this slide and hearing me talk, you are doing great. If you can't, don't shout at your screen because we won't be able to hear you. Simply use the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. The chat feature may be hidden. So if you hold your mouse either at the top or bottom of your screen, the feature menu should emerge. Please use the chat feature to ask questions or make comments. I will read your comments or questions out to the host. And we do ask that you keep your questions for the end as we have left a large question and answer period. If you are watching this live on Facebook, we do have someone moderating our live Facebook video and will be relaying the questions to me. And that's the chat feature there, highlighted with her arrow. This month's presenters are Sandra Borger of the Museum of Surrey and Meena Bhagat of Fraser Valley Virtual. And I wanted to say, take this over, Sandra, and yeah, go ahead. I'm going to stop sharing now.
All right, can everyone see that? Or I guess, Lorenda, hopefully you can see that, and everyone else?
Yes, I can. I'm going to mute myself now.
Perfect, thank you. All right, new to Zoom, exciting times. So thanks, Lorenda. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Sandra Borger, and I've been working in museums for over a decade, and I've been at Museum of Surrey for 8 years. During that time, I've worked in events and programs, I've worked in education, and now I'm the visitor experience coordinator. In my current position, I'm responsible for, as the title suggests, visitor experience. A lot of people don't know what that means, and so basically I look at all the things that impact the visitor when they're at the museum. A few examples might be customer service, cleanliness in the washroom, spaces for rest, wayfinding and signage, and accessibility and inclusion. Today, I'm just going to really quickly give you an overview of why Museum of Surrey decided to create virtual walkthroughs in the first place, and then quickly tell you what we're doing with them now that we're closed because of COVID. So let's start. Everyone wants to go to our beautiful parks, forests, and beaches. Everyone has the right to go to restaurants, cafes, and bistros. And everyone should feel welcome at the fantastic museums, art galleries, and science centers around the province. However, there are many families that have members with special needs that are not going to these places. Both the family and the individual are sacrificing their quality of life because of the unknown. Are there loud noises? Is there somewhere to eat? Will there be accessible parking? Are there going to be crowds? And what's the washroom situation? As a municipally funded museum, it's our mandate at Museum of Surrey to serve all of the citizens of Surrey, and not just some of them. The City of Surrey has a specific inclusion policy for parks, recreation, and culture that reiterates the importance of access for all and the right for everyone to participate with dignity and respect. And as the Museum of Surrey's vision is to be the best people museum in Canada, we're keenly aware that we need to be inclusive for all people. So with this in mind, in 2019, we partnered with Meena from the Fraser Valley Virtual to create a 3D walkthrough of the museum and its galleries. So there's two main reasons why the tour helps the museum be more inclusive. For starters, the 3D walkthrough allows visitors with autism to front load. The most significant thing I've learned from my colleagues at Canucks Autism Network, who are, by the way, fantastic, and I would highly recommend that you reach out to them if you have any questions or want to do some training, is that if you've met one person with autism, well, you've only met one person with autism. Autism is a spectrum, and people's experiences, their struggles, and their strengths vary greatly. That said, there are some more common challenges that we can address at museums to help make our spaces be more inclusive. For example, someone with autism might have a strong need for predictability and sameness in their lives. Routines and familiar spaces can be very important to having a good day. Front-loading is a technique that parents can use to have successful outings. When front-loading, you introduce the situation, outline expectations, and review appropriate behavior. Basically, you make a really good plan. What's going to happen, how it will happen, where it will happen, what it will feel like, what order it's going to happen in. And then you review everything a few times in advance and maybe even during your visit. So the 3D walkthrough helps in this preparation process. Visitors can review the galleries, they can decide ahead of time which exhibits they want to explore, they can see if there are places for rest, if there's a quieter space to regroup, they can make their plan. Furthermore, the walkthrough helps prepare visitors with autism for encounters that might be stressful. Think about all the things that happen at a museum. Consider, for example, the sheer size of some museum and historical sites. Think about the enormous amounts of information and content in some of our exhibits. Goodness, we've got photographs, artifacts, props, artworks, reproductions, even taxidermy animals. Some of our exhibits might make sounds, but have special lighting, or even smell like what you're looking at. Hopefully not this dinosaur though. By doing the walkthrough beforehand, along with checking out our social story and our accessibility brochure, when a visitor with autism arrives at the Museum of Surrey, the building is just a little bit more familiar to them. They've been able to make a plan, and that means less time to adjust, fewer surprises, and a lot more fun. And as you can tell from my slides so far, we love fun at the Museum of Surrey. Second off, the 3D walkthrough helps visitors with wheelchairs or physical limitations prepare for their visit. A 3D walkthrough is useful for visitors to see pathways and know whether a museum has space for them to move around. Is the turning radius sufficient in the hallway for someone using a wheelchair? If it gets crowded, is there going to be room to maneuver? Think about historical sites. Look at the entrances. How wide are doors? Can I even get through them? In a virtual tour, visitors can see how far it is from one side of the building to the next, or how far it is between buildings if you're in a historic site. Will there be opportunities for rest in large spaces or in areas where there is a lot to look at? Visitors can also see if there's an elevator for access to upper levels, or if there's stairs, how many stairs? If there's a ramp, what's the incline look like? The walkthrough can help visitors look for potential obstacles. Are there cracks in the ground? Does the path change from carpet to wood to cement to carpet, back again? A lot of these things might seem minor, and it might be something you've never thought about, but I can almost guarantee that someone with mobility issues has. Before I move on to talk about what we've done with the walkthrough during COVID, let me say one more thing really quickly about accessibility and inclusion. Something really important to point out is that if you have a 3D walkthrough or if you have any accessibility features, it's vital that you put them on your website. This is the first place that a person will look, and if there's nothing listed and accessibility isn't addressed at all, they might just not visit. Why would we risk going somewhere where we might not feel welcome? So at Museum of Surrey, we're really lucky that we did all this work before COVID and before the closure of the museum. Currently, we're using the 3D walkthrough for the new online initiatives. As an example, when we're open, we usually have free scavenger hunts for visitors. People walk up to the front desk, they grab a scavenger hunt, and then complete it in whichever gallery it's meant to be used in, and then return it. We even have little prizes like tattoos and stickers. During the closure, we've created scavenger hunts for each of the galleries using the walkthrough, and we post these on our Facebook page. People can visit the museum, in air quotes, and explore. They can complete the scavenger hunt without ever leaving their home. We don't have any prizes though. We're also working on a heritage campus tour with Meena. This is going to go one step further than just the walkthrough. It will include matter tags with photos and text that give more information. Meena's going to talk about the technical aspects of that in a second. This Heritage Campus tour will be like a proper tour of our campus. It'll include archival photographs, historical information, and the overall evolution of the campus. The tour will be featured in the City of Surrey's online Seniors Week programming. Normally, we have a full week of programs throughout the city for seniors, but this year it's going to be all online. So now I'm going to hand it over to Meena, who's going to explain all of the technical aspects of how this works and what the possibilities are.
Thank you, Sandra, and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for the opportunity for Fraser Valley Virtual to show you the Matterport walkthrough tours. So my name is Meena Bhagat, and I'm a photographer for Fraser Valley Virtual. And if you haven't seen what a walkthrough tour looks like, let me show you what we created for the Museum of Surrey. So let's step inside a walkthrough tour. So this link is from Surrey Museum's accessibility website, and this is a first look of what the walkthrough tour would look like. So as you can see, I can walk through the space as if I'm physically there. On the far left-hand side, you'll see this panel that appears. I'm just going to close that for a moment, and I'll come back to that. You'll also see areas that make it easy for people to locate certain areas, for example, the washrooms, if there's an area for information. So I know exactly where that area would be. Again, I'm walking through the tour as if I'm actually there. You'll notice these circles on the floor. That's for a location of where the camera was placed. And I'll go through the actual steps of creating the tour with you in just a moment. So I can walk through different areas. I can turn around. I can look up, can look down. I can go back to where I've just come from. And I'm going to go further, a little bit further here. I'm going to go through the set of doors that we have in front of me to go to the other side. So that takes me to the other side of the museum. So as you can see, I'm able to view the whole museum from the comfort of my home. On the bottom left corner, you'll notice that there's three little icons here. I'll go through those with you again, just so you can see how accessible the tour would be. If I go to the dollhouse view, that allows you to see the tour, three-dimensional tour of the museum. And the advantage of the dollhouse view is that I can rotate it at the X or the Y axis. So you can see that I can rotate the tour. If there's a particular location that I want to view in a bit more detail, for example, if I want to look at the area here at the beginning of the tour, I could just double click and that takes me directly to that location. So again, the dollhouse view just allows you to see will allow you to see the big picture of the space. And as Sandra was saying, if you wanted to look at the different, let's say for accessibility, the different materials that are being used, whether it's carpet or concrete, again, you'll be able to get a better view from the dollhouse view. We also have a floor plan view. If you want to just get a bird's eye view of the layout of the area to have a better sense of what the layout looks like, that's your dollhouse view. And I'm just going to jump over to the floor selector. I can view each floor independently. So there's floor 1, there's floor 2. If I just want to look at, okay, this is the top area of the museum. So that's what I want to concentrate on. Again, if I want to get to this particular location, I could just double click and it takes me to that location. So those are the different views that you could work with when you are in the virtual tour. The panel that I closed earlier allows you to see matter tags, which I'm going to explain in a bit more detail. But again, if I wanted to see exactly where would the elevators be in the museum, if I go to one of the tags, it directs me to where the elevator would be. So there's one elevator. Where's the other elevator? So there's the one, sorry, and then it takes me to the other elevator, which is further down. Where would I go for information? So I can't remember exactly on the map where was the information area. If I click to information, it takes me to where the information booth is located. So these are what we call matter tags. So to explain matter tags in a bit more detail, I'm going to jump into another view that we created for the Museum of Surrey. It's the Being Punjabi tour. So I'm just going to go into that tour. I'm just going to refresh my screen there for a moment. And just so you can see, there's your dollhouse view before we go into the tour as I'm going forward. So I have 3 matter tags for this particular museum, and each matter tag holds different piece of information. So a matter tag just allows viewers to have further information on certain topics and areas. So there's 3 types of matter tags you could incorporate. You could incorporate an image matter tag. So here's an image of a yearbook, Division 3 yearbook. So an image matter tag, I'm just going to go one step forward and turn around. Here's a text matter tag if you just want to explain the information in a bit more detail with text. And also the other matter tag that you could incorporate is a video matter tag. So here in this case, it's a video and it's hosted on YouTube. So the video can play, you can pause the video, you have all the functionality. You have all the functionality of playing a video. So those are the 3 different matter tags you can incorporate in a tour, and you can have as many matter tags as you require for your tour. And as I showed you for the main Museum of Surrey website, your matter tags can be set up in such a way that you can think of it like a table of contents for your matter tags. So you're probably curious, how do we actually create this tour? So what I'd like to show you, I'm just going to jump back to my PowerPoint slideshow. Here's the camera. I'm just going to play this little short video that I created. This is the camera that we used to create the tour. So this is when I was at the Surrey Museum just last week to do the cultural campus tour for them. So here's the camera. I place it in a position where I think a user would be standing to look, to view. And it's as simple as I'm using my iPad to capture the depth data. I press go on my iPad and the camera rotates. It rotates 5 times, and what it does, it takes images of each area and then it stitches them together. So it uses depth data, and using AI technology, it stitches the information together and then it stores it on the cloud. And that's what I would then provide to our client. I would give them the link to the tour, and then they would just place that link on their website. So when you're working with the camera, a couple of things to keep in mind. I always have to be hidden. So in this case, I am walking around the camera. And in cases where we've got people that are physically there, just have to ensure that they are out of the area. Otherwise, they get caught up in the tour. So that's how the tour is created, by using this 3-dimensional, using this camera, which gives you that realistic, fully immersive experience. So the Matterport walkthrough tour allows users to be virtually present in the space. It opens doors to everyone around the world. And that's my presentation. I'll hand it back to you, Lorinda.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sandra and Meena. That was incredible. I know that I have some questions, and we already have some questions coming in. So I'm just going to dive in. If you are unsure about how to pose a question, just hover at the top or the bottom of your screen, and that will pop out the question and answer or chat function. And if, again, you're listening and viewing this on Facebook, you can comment below the Facebook video, and those questions will be relayed to me, Sandra and Meena. So one of the first questions we have is, what would something like this cost?
Meena,
So,
answer that one.
Yes, I'll go ahead and answer that. So we base it upon square footage. So we charge $175 up to 3,000 square feet, and then $75 for each additional square foot. each additional 1,000 square feet, sorry, so up to 175 up to 3,000 square feet, and then $75 for each additional 1,000 square feet. And then there's also a cost if you are having matter tags, just for the time it would take to create the matter tags, edit the matter tags, and it's the process that we usually take would be once the tour is created, you get the link, and then we have a conversation of what tags you would want and what edits are required. So the process can take up to about a couple of weeks for everything to be in place.
Can I add something to that? So for us, something that we did is we did it in stages. So first we had just the Surrey Stories Gallery done. And then we paid to do the other galleries later. And now we're paying to do the outside of the campus. So one of the great things about what Meena does is that it is something that you can add on to. For example, we have our feature gallery, and that changes 3 times a year. So we have the whole tour done. And then every time we get a new feature exhibit, Meena comes in and films just the new exhibit. She could add that into the existing overall tour. So if cost is something that you're worried about, one of the great things is that you can build it. It doesn't have to be something that you do in one shot. Meena, would you agree with that?
Absolutely. You could have it, and I just did a tour for the Museum of Vancouver, and again we had 2 separate tours. So we just did their permanent gallery and also then their feature gallery. And if their feature gallery is going to be changing, that could be done even could be done with their new feature at a later date. Or if they decide to now then do a tour for their for the entrance of the museum, that could be done at a later date and then added on to the existing tour. It would be added on through a matter tag.
Thank you. Now, this is a question that may be more for Sandra. Someone has posed the question of, are you aware if there are any grants available for something like this? Was that something that you explored before pursuing this for the Museum of Surrey?
I didn't explore grants for this specifically. I don't know a ton of grants about accessibility specifically. One of the ones that we are looking at right now for doing some accessibility work in the museum, like adding push buttons to some of our doors, is the Cultural Spaces grant. But no, we didn't use a grant for this specific project, but I know that the Cultural Spaces one is one we're looking at for accessibility initiatives for other things in the museum.
Thank you. A question here from Todd Davidson. Is there a best photo resolution for image matter tags?
So your images for matter tags are going to be stored on another platform. So we do use Flickr for those. As far as resolution, you don't want it to be extremely large. So there was one case for the Surrey Museum where it was very large. It was something like, I think it was 300 megabytes, which was extremely large for it to upload to a matter tag. So if it's something around 10 megabytes is usually a good size for images.
Thank you. We have a question here for Sandra. This person noticed several photos of traveling exhibits in your presentation. Do you complete scans of all the traveling shows? And do you ever face resistance or have to persuade exhibitors to allow this?
We do film every new exhibit. We've only been doing it for a year, so we've only done 3 exhibits so far. 2 of those were in-house exhibits. There was a Lego one that we did in-house, the Lego Worlds of Wonder. We also did the Being Punjabi one, which was in-house. The last one that we did was Arctic Voices, and we haven't had any resistance so far. I think that a lot of traveling exhibits, when you explain to them that it's for accessibility, I don't think that you would get much pushback. Also, I've noticed that some exhibits have online content anyways available. So, I mean, definitely, you know, ask permission beforehand, but I think when you explain what the reasoning is, I think that you wouldn't have a lot of disagreement. The thing is to not have a new tour for a feature exhibit. then you are sort of setting up that visitor for failure. If someone, for example, if there's a mom and she's bringing her child with autism to your museum, they do the walkthrough and they come in expecting Lego, and then they find a Punjabi exhibit, that's going to set them back more than maybe if they hadn't done the walkthrough to begin with, because they have that expectation. And so if you do have changes to your building, I would say, yeah, you really want to make sure that you redo the filming.
Thank you. And are the walkthroughs available after the exhibition is over to have for your website as historical?
Yep, so Meena, every time she films the feature exhibit, I get a new link for that one specifically. Maybe I can let Meena elaborate on it, but we do have the link that we had for the Punjabi and for the Lego one. And so we've actually used those as like a throwback. Do you remember when you were at the Lego exhibit? Come do a scavenger hunt online now that you can't come see it anymore. Meena, do you want to elaborate?
Yeah, sure. Yes, the links are active. Well, for as long as we host them, which would be for the museum, we would do that for as long as they need them. So the links don't become inactive. So as Sandra mentioned, she has a link. I give her a link and she's able to post that link, even if it's an old exhibit. Maybe she, especially now with COVID-19, if she wants to repost, let's say the Lego link, which we did about a year ago, I believe, she's able to post that link because that link is still active. So it doesn't become inactive unless they no longer want to, unless the client, in this case museum, choose not to ever show that link once ever again.
Thank you. This is a question for Sandra from Facebook. Sandra, do you have a sense of how many people are using this virtual experience? And are you able to track if they return? They'd love to know if you're able to do this kind of tracking.
Oh, that's a good question. So we have a publicist that does our website. And so if I had, I would probably be able to tell you how many people use the link. You can email me and I can find out for you. I will say that we do a lot of self-guided tours and we do a lot of school programs. So when we book a self-guided tour, so say we have, 5 or 6 booked in a week or way more than that during summer or spring break, we always send the fact that we have the walkthrough before. And so I think a lot of people view it that way. And also when we do school programs, teachers get teacher notes, and we mention both the social story and the walkthrough in the teacher's notes. So I mean, I would wager that quite a lot of people use the 3D walkthrough because we're really good at pushing it, that letting people know. Right now, the City of Surrey is redoing the whole city's website. So right now, when you go to Museum of Surrey Accessibility, the link is actually at the very bottom of the accessibility page, and some people don't know it's there, and it's a bit hard to find. That will hopefully change in the next few months once we get a new website. But I would say if you do it, yeah, just whenever you're talking to people, just let them know. If you really want to know what the numbers are, please send me an email and I can talk to our publicist and she can tell me what the numbers look like there.
I'll just add to that as well. If you are interested in having statistics, and even Sandra, I wasn't aware that would be something that you would be interested in as well. I do have the statistics of how many visitors are visiting the site on a daily basis. So, for example, right now I can see for the Surrey Museum the link that's posted on their website for the accessibility. I could see that there were 93 visitors on the 23rd of April. So any statistics, you could get that information from me, and I could present that. I could give that to you, whether it's on a weekly basis or even on a monthly basis, so you can get an idea if there's a trend in how many visitors you have to your site.
Well, that's great, Meena. Look, see, we're all learning today.
Yes, we are. This is a question from Nancy Martle. Do you think that showing the museum space is really important in virtual exhibition, or the content and objects are more important? And should we do a totally different numeric environment for virtual
Well, I mean, the reason the museum did the virtual walkthrough to begin with is for accessibility and for the reasons I outlined. So I think like showing the space itself and what it will feel and look like for me personally is the most important thing with these walkthroughs. But, you know, I think the discussion around museums and the web and how much we put online, that's a really big conversation. And like for right now, I think it's great. Having those matter tags that Meena talked about. I know if you go to the UBC Museum of the Earth, they have a lot of matter tags on their 3D walkthrough. I think it really depends on what the goal is for you of the virtual tour. So for me, it's specifically accessibility. But, you know, if you have a really awesome exhibit with great content and people can't necessarily get to your museum because of like COVID, then maybe that's more important for you. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. This is a question from Ben Fast. What is the content update procedure? How easy is it to update images for individual rooms or the matter tags?
So I'll answer that. It's fairly easy. I would just need you to provide, if it's a tour that we've created, I would just need you to provide me with the content and the location of where you would want the images, the text, or the video to be located. So where you would want the matter tags to be placed. And it's not a complicated process for me to do. Of course, it could take some time depending on how many matter tags you require, but you would just need to provide me with provide me with the list of your content.
Thank you. Another question for you, Meena. Do you have to use the 3D camera or can other cameras be used?
No, you would have to use the Matterport. Well, there are other cameras that can be used to create the virtual tour. So you don't have to use the Matterport 3D camera. So there are other cameras, but of course you won't. It's not just your regular Canon camera that can be used to create the virtual tour.
Thank you. A question sort of connected to that is from an attendee who is not in the area, and they are curious to know if there is training to do a MWT, which I assume is Matterport walking tour at our own location with training.
So I'm assuming they have their own camera and they just want to have training done to create the tour.
Mm-hmm.
If that, yeah, absolutely. If that's something that they would be interested in, I'd be happy to give them some advice and show them the process of creating the tour.
Thank you. And if anyone is listening can clarify what MWT is standing for, perhaps to these people that are posing that question, or Meena or Sandra, if this is an acronym you're familiar with. We have another question that says, can organizations host their own MWT, or does Matterport have to host them?
I mean, I think that's more of a question for Meena in terms of the technological aspect.
So the MWT, I'm assuming, means Matterport walkthrough tour. I'm assuming that's what the acronym represents. Sorry, Lorinda, can you just repeat the question? I was just researching if there was another meaning for MWT.
They've clarified Matterport walking tour, so
Okay.
I think we're all right. So can organizations host their own walking tour, or does Matterport have to host them?
Matterport has to host them. So I would provide you with the link. You're not able to download the tour. You are provided with the link. So they're hosted on a cloud and they're hosted by Matterport.
Yeah.
So I might just add that, you know, I've worked in a small museum, and I know that sometimes if you can't get that grant and you can't get that budget, that this might not be something that you can afford to do. I mean, maybe you can do it in stages, I don't know. But, you know, something is better than nothing. So even if it's a matter of you walking through your museum with your cell phone and just taking pictures and creating like an online slideshow, like that is still good. So, you know, I know sometimes with technology, it can be complicated or it can be costly. But I think museum people specifically are really creative in finding like DIY solutions. So maybe it wouldn't have the bird's eye view, and maybe it wouldn't have the same like walkthrough capabilities, but that doesn't mean to say that you can't go and take some photos and give your visitors a feel of what the museum might look like and where things are. I mean, even to just do a PowerPoint presentation and put that on your website, like that's not, you know, I can't see a visitor being like, well, that's not a virtual walkthrough, posh, no thank you.
Thank you. Meena, this is a question for you from Sarah. The new Trail Museum currently has a Matterport 3D tour. Is it possible to work with you to add tags? Those are something they don't currently have.
So whoever created the tour for you is the one that has access to your tour. So in order for me to create the tags for you, what I would have to become a collaborator on that tour. So you would have to go back to the company that created the tour and ask them to make me the collaborator, or you know, or they could even do the matter tags for you as well.
Thank you. A question here from Facebook. Is there hosting fees for maintaining old tours? And how would tours adapt to a smaller space for museums without larger open gallery space?
So yes, there is a fee to host the space, and that's what I incorporate when I give you the fee of creating the tour. So that's incorporated within the original fee. And we do have different pricing if the space is smaller than 3,000. Like I said, for space up to 3,000, that was the cost of 175. If the space is a bit smaller, of course, we could adjust the price for a smaller area.
You. This is a question from Luke. If you create a new tour for a new feature exhibit, can you keep tours of the previous exhibits to allow the viewer to choose which one they are viewing?
Absolutely, yes, you can. So again, they're hosted indefinitely. And so the tour can be accessible at any time.
Wonderful. We have another question here from Facebook. This could be a great resource for homeschooling. Have you had much feedback or conversations with homeschoolers or educators?
At this point, we have not. At Museum of Surrey, we do get homeschool groups. They're usually self-guided tours that come in on Fridays when we don't have in-house school programs. If they've been using the tour, the walkthrough, I don't know about it. But I know that homeschoolers are a group we haven't marketed towards. I would wager that if we did start marketing more towards homeschoolers, that yeah, for sure, we would tell them about this.
Thank you. Can galleries download and archive 3D tours of past exhibitions, or are those tours only available to view on the web?
So I'll answer that one. So you receive a link, and so it is only accessible via the web. So there is no download function. So you only have access to a link, and the link is the one that runs the tour. So it's hosted on a cloud. There's no download feature. You just have access to the link, and that gives you the tour.
Thank you. This is an interesting question from Facebook that I'm very curious about. Is it possible to turn this kind of tour into a VR experience?
Yes, it is. So that's when we first approached Surrey Museum. We did a tour, and we had it for Surrey Doors Open, and we had a small booth, and participants were wearing the VR goggles to view the tour. So even though they were at our booth, they were able to view the tour using using the VR goggles, which is such a great experience for them, because you do feel even more so, you're more immersed in the tour.
Very interesting, thank you. This is a question from a person. They say they are an autistic person. They find the 3D layouts for the dollhouse and bird's eye view dizzying. Are there static versions of this?
So the dollhouse view and The dollhouse view is set up by the guide, by myself. I could disable that feature. So if this was something that an association found was a bit not very pleasant for them to view, that could be disabled. You could get static versions of the tour, but that would be, again, something that you would have to consult with the developer of the tour to provide you with those static versions.
Thank you. And they just wanted to, oh, sorry, go ahead, Sandra.
Oh, no, I was just going to say is that another way to deal with that is we also have a map of the museum, which is like, it was done by a graphic designer, and it's like a blueprint type map. And so that might be something like, it's just a different option to view the space in a different way.
Thank you. And I wanted to add, they added the comment that they find simple labeled maps much easier to process.
Yes, so that's something that I would say again is we have both. And having more than one option is always nice because, you know, different people learn differently and take in different information. So you can do the virtual walkthrough, or you can just look at the plain old simple map.
Thank you. Sandra, I believe you already touched on this, but we have a question about smaller scale DIY version of this idea. The example they provided is just one display. Is there something an organization could create on their own? And if so, how? So I know you mentioned, you know, walking through with your cell phone or a PowerPoint. Do you have any other thoughts or anything to add to that?
I'm a really big fan of PowerPoint. I think it's really simple and you can create a template and then keep it consistent on your website if you wanted to put it up there. I know that for this Heritage Campus tour that we're working on right now, I'm starting it through PowerPoint. So I'm putting all of my archival photos, my contemporary photos, all of my text into the PowerPoint. And one thing, because this will be for seniors programming, there will be the virtual version where someone can do the walkthrough like they just did. But then there will also be the PowerPoint where we're probably going to have the PowerPoint on our website so you can scroll through that easily. We'll also probably go really old school and just print it out and send it to seniors who want to have like a physical copy, because that's, you know, that's the easiest way to do things. So I don't know, maybe in the chat or in the question and answer, someone has other ideas, but I'm a really big fan of PowerPoint, just because it is sequenced, and that way you can help to dictate sort of where people start and where people end, and that helps tell the story a little bit more in an easier way.
Thank you. Sandra, I believe will be a question for you. Can you tell us more about working with CAN, and what kind of learnings did you gain from working with them? And do you happen to know if they work across BC or beyond?
Okay, so how much time do we have left? Working with CAN is amazing. So I first got in touch with CAN 2 or 3 years ago. And we started with them much more simply. We did a workshop with them. So someone from CAN came in, and our staff and our volunteers did what they call an autism awareness tour, autism awareness education session. I think it was about 2 hours long, and we learned from the instructor, like, what is autism? What does that spectrum look like? What small things can we do? They gave us really great examples from other museums. If you go to the Vancouver airport, they're really good partners with CAN. I believe Science World is as well. And then they just told us about some of the things that they do. And so from there, we kind of got the ball rolling with them, and we created the social stories. So that, again, is on our website. We have 2 versions. One is for parents and one is for teachers. And basically the social story, you take photos, and then you work with someone from CAN who creates the social story for you. So it's not something that you have to be an expert in. They walk you through that process. And it's basically like a very simple brochure that says what to expect at a museum, maybe what some of the rules are. And that's all about front loading and knowing what will happen. We also worked with CAN to help create a sensory-friendly space that we have during special events where there's, you know, fidget tools. It's a quiet area with beanbag chairs and some sensory-friendly items that people can do, like drawing, coloring, reading. And it's a place where people can kind of regroup. And that is something that they helped us create. So, I mean, I had no idea that a tunnel, like one of those really simple IKEA tunnels or a little tent, is really, really good to have in there. And so they helped with that. And we also now do our sensory-friendly Sundays, which, of course, right now we're not doing. But with that, Ken helped us to figure out how to make the museum sensory-friendly. And we do that first Sunday of the month for 2 hours before we open. And they help with our advertising. They put our events and things like that on their Facebook page. They're really wonderful to work with. If you need the name of the person that I work with, I'm happy to connect you. But if you know, obviously some things cost money, but some things don't. So yeah, I would totally reach out to them. They've been amazing.
Thank you. And do you feel comfortable sharing, like, is it a sliding scale in regards to fees? Is it based off of what kind of projects you're looking to work on, or by site size?
So all of the different projects have different prices attached to them because it depends on what you're doing, right? That said, CAN has always made it clear that they are a community service group, so they're flexible. So if they come to you and they say, okay, this workshop is $200, and you say, oh my God, I can't afford that, they're flexible. And I mean, I don't want to speak on their behalf. This is just from my experience. Is I think that there's a good chance that they would work with you to either change the amount of time that, say, the program runs or the cost. They're really all about education and accessibility. So I think that even if you're worried about budget, just be honest and tell them, like, this is what I have to work with. We really want to do this. How can we do it?
Thank you. I have a question for Meena. I'd love to know what other industries are using these kind of walking tours. Do you mind sharing which other industries or fields you work with?
Oh, absolutely. So predominantly with the real estate industry. So we've been doing, of course, recently due to COVID, we've been doing a very high number of virtual tours since open houses have been suspended. And for realtors, they're not able to do even private showings. So having the using it for the purpose of allowing viewers to walk inside a home virtually. So the real estate market uses virtual tours quite extensively. That's predominantly the area that we've been working with.
Thank you. I'm also curious about the Matter tags, and my apologies if you mentioned this. Are there other ways, not just photo and video, but could you have it linked to like a playlist? Could you have it linked to, I don't know, a Google Drive, or are there limitations on what the Matter tags can be?
So the three main areas of the Matter tag would be text, images, and videos. You could create within your text, you could have a link to a Google Drive. So I'm assuming on the Google Drive, if you've got an area for images, I've never tried that actually to see if it would link to a Google Drive. But I think, yeah, I think it would work as if it's the link to that particular drive. Mm-hmm. But no, I haven't tried it with a Google Drive. I know it does work for the photographs and images and videos and text, as I stated. But I'd have to try that.
And can you link it to like a URL, or does it have to be an embedded link, like when you do the YouTube videos?
No, you can link it to a URL, yes.
Interesting. I'm just curious about the limitations and you know, how far the Matter tags can go. It's very, very interesting. Mm-hmm. I don't think we have any more questions on Facebook or in our chat or here under our question and answer. Sandra, I do have a question. I'm curious, are you asking for engagement during this time of COVID when you were doing your scavenger hunts? Are you asking people to comment on Facebook or Instagram, or are you just putting it out there?
So we do it primarily through Facebook. So I've gone in and I've created scavenger hunts for each of the galleries, and I've given them to our publicist. And what she does is, say for the Surrey Stories Gallery, I've created like 15 things for you to find or answer. She will post a link to the Surrey Stories Gallery part of the tour, and then she will ask maybe 2 or 4 of the questions at a time. So we don't post the whole thing at once. We kind of give a little bit, and then people often comment on Facebook, like in the comment section of the post, saying, I found it, or can't find this, or we did it all.
Awesome. It's great to see that you're getting engagement on them. I'm just gonna give our chat question and answer on Facebook another moment in case there's other questions out there. Sandra, Meena, do you have any other comments to add?
No, I think the advantage of the Matterport walkthrough tour is just being able to open your doors and making your space accessible to everyone around the world, especially at times like this when we're not able to travel. Being able to walk inside another museum, it could be a museum that's on the other side of the world. I think it gives you that possibility.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add other than working with Meena has been a dream. So hopefully her information will be shared on here, and Meena will get lots and lots of requests because she's super efficient and a pleasure to work with. So give her a call or an email.
Thank you. Meena,
Sandra.
Are you going into places currently through COVID and still operating?
Yes, we are, but we are wearing. We do ensure that the space is that we're protecting ourselves. So we are wearing gloves and masks and foot coverings as well. If we are going into areas whereby homes, for example, even in the museums, if we are going inside, we do wear the protective masks and gloves and so forth, and we haven't traveled anywhere outside of Canada in the last 5 months. But we are working currently, and like I said, right now there's just been a huge demand within the real estate market just because of open houses being suspended.
Yeah, I can see that. And during, I'm sure right now the timelines might be a little bit more extended, but during regular operating times, how long does it take from first email to having a virtual exhibit online?
I mean, Sandra could speak to that. It could take a couple of days. So as short as a couple of days. So as if the area is ready to be filmed, I go in and I do the tour, and then within 24 hours, usually the client gets the link.
Yeah, and that's just going to depend on how much you want to put in there, right? So if you're going to do something simple like our virtual walkthrough where you're not adding all those matter tags, then it's a matter of making sure your space looks tidy, telling people not to be in the way, trying to film on a day where you don't have visitors is good, because otherwise, you have them in the screen. So we would always do our filming on Mondays when we're closed. Another option is to do it before you open or after you're open. But if you put on the extra stuff like the matter tags, that just takes however long your researching takes. So as I'm working on the Heritage Campus Tour, I've been working on it off and on for about 2 weeks, but that includes, going and searching for archival photos. It's, research and census data and all that other kind of stuff. So that's really on you how long that takes. But in terms of Meena just doing the tour, the walkthrough, it's really quick, actually.
Yeah, I'm surprised. That's very quick. That's amazing. I don't think we have any more questions being posed right now, so I just wanted to thank you so much, Sandra and Meena and everyone. We appreciate your participation and look forward to keeping in touch. I will be including Sandra and Meena's information in the email that comes out following the webinar with a link to this webinar recording. Thank you so much. I learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone else who participated also learned a lot more about virtual exhibits and also how they can support accessibility. Thanks again for everyone joining us today. Please mark your calendars for our next webinar, which is this Wednesday, April 29th, where we will be joined by BC Hearn to explore emergency salvage of art and archival collections. Remember, if you have any suggestions for topics for 2020 or wish to present one yourself, please email myself at programs@museumsassociation.bc.ca, and please fill out our follow-up survey, which will be in your box shortly, or in your inbox shortly. Please do consider becoming a member of the BCMA. Your membership benefits include free webinar participation, as well as access to all previously recorded webinars, reduced registration fees for our annual conference, regional workshops, and other events, and access to Prodi resources through our website, including the Roundup magazine and regular e-newsletters with up-to-date grant opportunities, job postings, and much, much more. For more information, you can view our website, museumsassociation.bc.ca/members. And thank you again so much for joining us, and please join us again for another webinar.